Most people think a silent retreat is about peace, a quiet room, a calm face, a mind that finally slows down. But that is usually not what happens first. What happens first is that you meet the noise you have been carrying the whole time, the thoughts you normally outrun, the restlessness you bury under stimulation, the impulses you obey without even noticing. And that is exactly why a short silent retreat can change you. Because even one day of real silence can expose the patterns that have been running your life in the background. In Buddhist traditions, silence helps you observe craving, aversion, and the constant movement of mind. In Vedic traditions, silence reduces outer noise so subtler layers of awareness can come forward. In Taoist traditions, silence and non-forcing let the system settle on its own, without pressure, without performance. Different traditions, same truth. When external stimulation drops, internal patterns become visible. And modern science says something very similar. When your attention is constantly hijacked by novelty, your nervous system rarely gets a chance to reset. But when you reduce input, simplify your environment, and repeat attentional practices over time, something changes. You begin to notice your mind instead of being pushed around by it. That is why a short retreat can be transformative. Not because it gives you a perfect experience, but because it reveals the experience you are already living inside. Imagine someone named Daniel. Daniel is not a monk. He is not a spiritual expert. He is just a normal person with too much input, too many tabs open in his head, and a constant low-level feeling that he is mentally crowded. He wakes up and reaches for his phone before his mind is even fully online. He wants more peace, but most days he lives in reaction mode. He tells himself he will slow down later. He will meditate later. He will get serious about his life later. Then one weekend, after feeling exhausted in a way sleep does not fix, he signs up for a short silent retreat. First, it feels amazing. No messages, no small talk, no social performance, no pressure to explain himself. Just a schedule, a meditation hall, quiet meals, walking paths, and long spaces where nothing is required except presence. For a few hours, it feels like freedom. Then the second phase begins. His mind gets louder. He starts replaying old conversations. He imagines future scenarios. He plans. He worries. He judges himself. He notices pain in his body. He feels boredom. He feels irritation. He starts wondering whether he is doing the retreat wrong. And now the silence feels less like peace and more like confrontation. This is the part no one talks about enough. Silence does not create the chaos. It reveals the chaos that was already there. In ordinary life, stimulation hides it. On retreat, there is nowhere to send your attention except into the truth of your own experience. This is where many first-time retreatants think they are failing. But this is often the exact moment the retreat starts working. Because the conflict of retreat is not between you and silence. It is between your awareness and the automatic patterns you normally never stop to question. Buddhism would say you are seeing craving, resistance, and identification more clearly. Vedic traditions might say deeper impressions and conditioning are surfacing. Taoist language might describe it as muddy water revealing its nature as soon as you stop stirring it and finally let it settle. The words are different, but the process is the same. And here is the most important shift. A retreat is not about becoming a perfect meditator. It is about becoming an honest observer. That is what makes a short retreat transformative. Not bliss, not spiritual performance, not trying to force your way into a special state, but learning how to stay with your own experience without immediately running from it. This is why structure matters so much. If you want a short retreat to truly change you, you need 4 things: intention, containment, repetition, and integration. First, intention. A retreat without intention becomes vague. You sit around, feel quiet for a bit, maybe get restless, and then go home unchanged. Intention gives the retreat direction. Not a fantasy like, I want enlightenment by Sunday, something real. I want to see my habits clearly. I want to interrupt overstimulation. I want to stop reacting automatically. I want to remember what my mind feels like without constant input. That kind of intention works because it is honest. Second, containment. Containment means boundaries. No social media. No unnecessary speaking. No random entertainment. No constant switching between practices. No turning the retreat into a casual day off. Containment gives the mind fewer escape routes. And that is exactly what allows deeper patterns to become visible. Third, repetition. One meditation session can feel chaotic, but multiple sessions across a day start building continuity. The first sit often shows you the noise. The second sit shows you resistance. The third sit sometimes shows you that awareness is becoming more stable than the noise. Repetition matters because the nervous system learns through rhythm, not through one dramatic peak moment. And fourth, integration. This is the difference between a meaningful weekend and actual change. If you go on retreat, feel deeply peaceful, and then immediately return to the same level of reactivity, speed, and unconscious habit, the retreat becomes a memory instead of a turning point. Integration asks one question: what from this silence will survive in real life? And this is exactly where Daniel's story changes. On the first evening, he feels discouraged. His mind is everywhere. He wants the retreat to feel profound, but mostly it feels uncomfortable. Then during a walking period, he instinctively reaches for his phone. Except the phone is not there. It has been off for hours. And in that tiny moment, something hits him. His body reached before his mind decided. That one gesture shows him how much of his life is being run by automatic loops. Reach, check, react, repeat. The retreat has not made him worse. It has made him visible to himself. And that changes the way he practices. He stops trying to become the ideal retreat person. He stops trying to force deep peace. He starts being more honest. During the next sit, he notices thoughts and labels them softly. Planning, remembering, judging, resisting. During meals, he notices how badly the mind wants stimulation. During walking, he feels the contact of his feet. Before sleep, he puts one hand on his chest and one on his abdomen and just breathes without trying to optimize the moment. Nothing mystical happens, but by the next morning, he feels less fragmented. Not because the retreat gave him a special state, but because it gave him a different relationship to himself. And that is where the real power of short retreat practice lives. Science supports this more than many people realize. Short meditation retreats have been associated with improvements in attention regulation, emotional awareness, perceived stress, and meta-awareness. Part of that comes from practice time, but another big part comes from the retreat environment itself. Less novelty, less talking, less decision fatigue, more repeated attention training, more contact with the body, more time for the nervous system to stop bracing against constant interruption. The retreat works because it changes the conditions under which your mind normally operates. So if you want to make a 1 to 3 day retreat actually transformative, here is the practical map. First, lower the fantasy. Do not go in expecting permanent peace or some dramatic spiritual breakthrough. Go in expecting to see your patterns more clearly than usual. That alone can be life-changing. Second, match the retreat to your real capacity. A 1-day retreat can be powerful if done sincerely. A 2-day retreat often gives you enough continuity to get past the surface noise. A 3-day retreat can go deeper, but only if you pace it wisely. It is better to do 1 clear day with real commitment than 3 days of vague, unfocused effort. Third, alternate sitting and walking. Too much sitting can make you shut down. Too little structure can make the retreat drift into laziness. A good short retreat has rhythm. Sit, walk, rest, eat quietly, sit again, walk again, reflect, sleep early. Fourth, make silence practical. You do not need to act spiritual. You do not need a perfect room, expensive clothes, or some mystical atmosphere. You need fewer inputs, clearer boundaries, and enough sincerity to stay with yourself when discomfort shows up. Fifth, expect resistance. This is not a glitch. This is the material. Boredom, sleepiness, irritation, restlessness, cravings, self-judgment, mental noise. These are not signs the retreat is failing. They are often signs the retreat is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. Now, if you want a simple short retreat structure, here is one. Wake up early and do not check your phone. Sit for 20 minutes. Walk for 15. Eat in silence. Sit again for 30. Walk again. Read a short passage from a Buddhist text, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, or the Tao Te Ching. Sit again in the afternoon. Journal briefly in the evening. Go to sleep without digital stimulation. That is enough. Transformation does not come from complexity. It comes from consistency. And if you cannot leave home for a retreat, you can still use a portable version. Here is a 20 to 30-minute home retreat ritual. Turn your phone off and place it out of reach. Sit down and set one simple intention. For the next 20 minutes, I will stop feeding distraction. Or, for this practice, I will observe without trying to fix. Then spend 5 minutes with natural breathing. No control, just attention. Then spend 5 minutes with your main contemplative anchor. If you lean Buddhist, use simple noting or mindfulness of sensation. If you lean Vedic, use a mantra or sacred passage. If you lean Taoist, place attention softly in the lower abdomen and let the breath settle on its own. Then spend 5 minutes walking slowly. Feel your feet. Feel the body moving through space. Then spend 5 more minutes sitting in open awareness. Notice the quality of mind now. Notice what changed. Notice what did not. Then close with one sentence in a journal. What did I notice? What do I want to carry into the next few hours? What one habit will I reduce? This is small, but done regularly, it teaches your system another way to be. And the deepest part of retreat is often not what happens in silence. It is what happens after you return. Daniel comes home Sunday evening. Nothing outside has changed. His responsibilities are still there. His inbox still exists. Life is still waiting. But Monday morning, something is different. He does not grab his phone the second he wakes up. He takes 3 breaths first. At lunch, he eats 1 meal without scrolling. Before starting work, he pauses for 1 minute instead of throwing himself straight into mental noise. These are tiny changes, but they are no longer random. They come from direct experience. That is how a weekend becomes a lasting habit change. Not by keeping retreat conditions forever, but by extracting one living principle from silence and carrying it back into ordinary life. Maybe it is silence before input. Maybe it is 1 conscious meal a day. Maybe it is 10 minutes of sitting every morning. Maybe it is walking before reacting. Maybe it is simply remembering that not every impulse deserves obedience. This is why short retreats matter. Most people do not need a cave in the mountains. They need structure, honesty, a break in the loop, a chance to see the machinery of their own mind without constant interruption. In a world built to fragment your attention, even a short retreat can become an act of reclamation. So if you have been thinking about doing a silent retreat, start smaller than your fantasy but deeper than your excuses. 1 day can teach you a lot. 2 days can reset your pace. 3 days can show you patterns daily life keeps hidden. What matters is not how spiritual it looks. What matters is whether it changes the way you return. Because silence is not an escape from life. It is training for meeting life more clearly. And that may be the most transformative skill of all. If you like this video, make sure to show some love and subscribe for a constant growth.